Thank you for clicking on the link today, guys. This is the Sollywood podcast, and we've got a pretty cool guest today. I'm your host, Charles Solly, and enjoy. Well, hey, we're here in the Regent Street Cinema, and I'm here with Jay Matthewson. You can shake your hand, man.
What's up? How are you?
I'm good. Been a long morning setting this up, but I'm quite excited. My podcast so far have been in my studio, which is a glorified garage. We did it up and painted it white and show my brothers out in there and do music videos and such. But
The joys of radio.
yeah.
This is rather nice though, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually one of the oldest, I think it is actually the oldest movie theater or cinema on the planet Earth. So it's been around for a while.
Because it was the Lumiere brothers, I believe, right?
It was, yeah, back in 1856 or 56, I think. The Lumiere brothers played the very first ever moving image, so the very first ever essentially movie. It was 54 seconds long, and it essentially was a train pulling into a station, and all but 3 of the audience ran out because they thought the train was going to come through the screen. They didn't understand film, I guess. I mean, how would they? It was the very first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that kind of funny.
Well, yeah, no, it's odd. So I went to Westminster University, and they brought up this theatre and got involved with sort of rejuvenating it, and so it was interesting to go there thinking I want to do film, and I want to be in the movies, and then go to this university at the centre of London that has such a connection with the history of the beginning of film. Because they did do showings in France, the Lumiere brothers, but it was in theatres, whereas this was the first purpose-built cinema.
Yeah.
And you can see it, it's a different layout. It's a square. It's not like a grandiose. There's no they've still got these side booths, but then there's no royal box or anything.
No, but I mean the original design, actually, if you can imagine between both those boxes, that was the top of the balcony. So this was a balcony. So the seats in the bottom here used to go flat right across all the way through to the bottom. But if you can imagine back there, and there was a balcony right here. If you actually go up, you'll notice there's quite a bit of a space between row F and J, I think it is. That's where in fact that's the front of the balcony right there, that piece, and then they were just joined without the stairs, obviously. And
nice.
So it was a slightly different design. I would have loved to have seen it actually when it was the previous design. I imagine a bigger capacity would have been, but it's pretty cool.
I have a lot of memories there. I mean, my graduation films were here. I won a Kodak Movie Award here. I wasn't. Awesome. I wrote this advert. It was like Scunchy Insta Twist for the twist, not for the twisted. And I did like these. It was like the Shrek Princess cartoons, but they're a bit 90210.
Okay.
And they all had their own problems. Like, I let my wizard do my hair, and it goes wrong. And like, I let the fairy woodland critters do my hair, and then the bear comes out. And, so they're all twisted, and the one goes, you Scunchy Insta Twist. So we won this award, but I wasn't invited as writer. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm getting on this award show. So the director of Bugsy Malone, that old...
Oh, wow.
He was like a presenter on it. This old, wonderful, wise sort of mole of a fellow was on stage shaking everyone's hand. So I knew this was happening, and I decided I'm going to work the event for my own film.
Okay.
And then they were like, and they called the movie, and I turned up. I didn't even given a seat, but I walked up with my director and producer and been like.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. Thinking outside the box, huh? But I mean, you do what you got to do to get into the place. But that's kind of sucks though that you didn't get as the writer of the piece that was being awarded.
Uni was a lot like that though. There was but our main guy, you got this big idea of the Kodak Movie Awards, but it's our main head lecturer that organised it with Kodak and got these big names involved. And I just got the impression, much like, he's a wonderful man, but much like the father in Kung Fu Panda, it's kind of this idea. He's trying to make sure you're okay, make sure you know that the adult world's just a lot of fun. You may be thinking you have to be some kung fu warrior, but eat your noodles, have a good time.
Just
And
chill out a bit.
yeah, and the sort of symbols of adulthood and kind of prestige will come. It's all flim flam kind of thing. That was the kind of impression he was trying to convey.
Well, it's a pretty good impression to impart.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, everyone takes this world and life way too seriously sometimes, and a lot of the time they take themselves too seriously. So just need to chill out a bit, have a good time, give each other a break.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice for a change?
It's creates a hard shell as well. I think I use this sort of metaphor of, sure, it's the same with a lot of things, but especially creative endeavors, and so reflective of the film industry. You have like whales, and you have probably all of the sea, but the main thing about the metaphor is the whales, the plankton, and the krill, and the whale's that creative principle that sort of has an insight into the world, like say Taxi Driver or anything, and then just eats all this kind of the unconscious element of the sea, and you can hear its song far and wide, and it resonates with everyone's heart, and that's how films become successful. They touch into those parts, and so when there's productions that are massive, like Transformers seems to still do great, but doesn't necessarily resonate with that element. It has other things going for it. Whereas the plankton and krill, I find you go to this film uni and you got people going, how are you going to do it though? And like, I might work my way up for like 7 years and maybe be this and then that. And I have some friends that have done it. They've actually done this kind of runner crew dream of having the right conversation, moving either upwards or sideways into fascinating roles. But I really wanted to stay at the heart of creative stuff myself. And I got that impression from you, having seen that a guy not much older than me was running his own film awards.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, the only creativity in film at the moment is in television. So there you go. It's not even in film. But certainly, if in film, we're certainly talking about the independent film. Anything that's coming out of the studios or out of the big budget production companies are, don't get me wrong, I've worked in both the big budget studio stuff. Funny you should mention Transformers. I just done the last one. And working on that film didn't feel like it was working on a film at all. I felt like I was making a theme park ride for Disney or something.
Sure.
It was just this big, crazy, action-packed crash, boom, bang, blowing everything up.
The one with Anthony Hopkins.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Were you in the Viking bit?
No, I was actually in the part with Tony, with Anthony Hopkins, not too far from here, up in the mall in front of, anyone who doesn't know that's basically the Queen's Driveway, which is the big long road in front of Buckingham Palace. We were racing up and down it, essentially. The Decepticons, cool. the bad guys in the movie, the bad robots, were chasing the good ones. We were getting chased by Anthony Hopkins and a bunch of McLarens and Lamborghinis and stuff.
I love his voice.
He's awesome. He's such a cool guy too. He's so strong. He's just
I get that impression.
He is a big, strong man. My girlfriend's from South Wales, which is where he's from. He's from a place called Port Talbot in just outside Swansea, which I go to all the time. It's a beautiful part of the world. South Wales, and he's from there, so I got talking to him about that, and just shooting the shit, really, chilling, waiting. I mean, I'm sure you've worked in films before yourself, and it's a lot of hurry up and wait, and especially when you do these big budget things for obvious reasons. You know what I mean? If you're gonna roll an SUV into the gates at Buckingham Palace, you get one shot at that. You know what I mean? And obviously, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of cameras, there's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of things to set up, and you get one crack at the whip. So there's a lot sitting around waiting. So we got talking, and he's a really cool guy. He was telling me a story, actually, which I found utterly fascinating. Was years ago he had just done Hannibal, and he was walking through the subway in London, and he found a book. And there was a whole bunch of notes down the side column of the book, and anyway, he read the book or whatever and really liked it. And anyway, years passed, and this script came through his agent for a job, and it was the script adaptation of that book. And anyway, long story short, he went and done the film, got talking to the director on the set, told him this story. He was like, yeah, that's my book. I lost it in London like 9 years ago or whatever it was. That was the notes that later went on to this movie right here.
Wow.
You know, so I was like, small world, huh?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's like Professor Snape, Harry Potter stuff.
Yeah.
With the
orchestrating everything. But he's so cool. I mean,
yeah.
He's also, I mean, let's be honest, he's arguably one of the best actors of all time.
Yeah.
You know?
I've some interviews with him are interesting in the sense that I love how poo-poo he is about concepts of method. And he's made comments on like the guy who played the President Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, and he's like, Daniel Day-Lewis gets some very, very into his role and so much characterization. He just doesn't leave the role. How do you feel about that? And what's your method? He's like, well, I walk in. He says action, and I act. He's like, well, because that's called acting. And he does. So it's interesting. He makes those kind of comments. But at the same time, if you looked at, I don't know if it's Stanislavski or there's a few of the kind of acting methodologies where they're similar to what he did in the sense that he for Hannibal picked some animals like I suppose spirit animals to try and channel, and it was something like a crane bird and a tarantula, and just this kind or a bird of prey and a tarantula, and it just that you know, if I try and embody that, you can get those tingles down your spine and become quite brooding, and the deep abyss of your pupils can intimidate people. You know,
I mean, like that film for him, that was a career defining role. And I don't remember if he told me or I read it or seen it somewhere. I can't remember. But the opening, or maybe not the opening scene, but the first scene where Anthony is revealed as Hannibal Lecter, where what's her name, Jodie Foster, she's walking down the hallway into the cell and he's behind the glass cell. In the script originally, he was sitting in the corner like going crazy, like a crazy person, you know, like freaking out and climbing up the walls type of thing.
Oh, right.
And he was like, no. And he said, no, that's not the character at all. He said he should be standing like we see him in the movie, super still and very confident and very like, hello, Clarice, you know. And whereas like that's much more scary than you know, some crazy person. Like, you know, same as the more terrifying roles are the roles that are played very articulate, very calm, very collected, very very courteous almost sometimes. But that's the people that's terrifying, you know. And some actors do that very well, and some roles are, you know, particularly good for those reasons.
I mean, villain-wise in that respect, the idea he's making conscious choices is the scary part. A lot of people disidentify with what we call immoral or bad or unconscious acts, and we think that's carnal, it's primal, it's animal, it's not us. We're some divine thing linked with religion and the moral sort of backbone of society, and people that don't abide to how we act we're sort of beyond. But when they're making conscious choices, and you're like, no, I like the taste of human flesh, and he deserves it. That's you know, that's a real interesting fear, because you're not necessarily the most intelligent person in the room now. You and on the TV series Hannibal Lecter, he doesn't beat him through intelligence. He beats him through the sort of being an intuitive feeler, an empath. That's why it's a different actor that plays him. It's the guy from Daniel Craig's Casino Royale, the villain from that, Mads Mikkelsen. Oh
right, yeah. No, I haven't seen the show, but I've seen it advertised on, you know, Netflix or.
And it gets quite
Amazon
good in the sense that
so.
The other guy ends up in prison because he's tried to morally help and sort out stuff for Hannibal in the end. The equivalent Jodie Foster's character, and Hannibal doesn't care. He just lets him go to prison. You know, so. But the opposite side of villainy in that respect is carnage. and anarchy, as opposed to like the tyranny of someone that is the most intelligent person in the room, someone adhering to a level of chaos, such as Venom or the Joker. Joker played by the new ones, like sort of a
Joaquin
mix.
Phoenix.
I'm looking forward to that now.
Yeah, I just seen the trailer maybe a week or so ago. I mean, let's be honest, Jack and Heath, that's the only two Jokers thus far. And personally, I prefer Heath.
Well,
But
there's also the guy who plays Luke Skywalker does the Joker's voice. He's kind of got his own conscience. He hasn't done it in acting,
sure.
but that's got his own consciousness
Mark
for the
Hamill.
games. Yeah, he does that really deep, weird voice, and it's and yeah. So that I'd chuck him in, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, but I mean, well, in live action anyway, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, there's been Jack and Heath. I mean, as I said, I prefer Heath, but then I think that there's also a big part of that because he's a big part, yes, as the Joker, but he's a big part of Nolan's Batman and that movie franchise as a whole, as in all the elements. I really love that whole. I love how dark he made that series of movies. I love Batman in them.
It's dark because it's real.
Exactly,
well.
exactly.
Whereas the other ones were Tim Burton.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah, and with that, there's this much more direct utilization of allegory and sort of metaphor, and the idea, who is Batman relative to society, who is Joker relative to society, and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you make it more in this real world that isn't like
Yeah.
The only time I ever took acid, there was this.
Whoa.
Well, I sort of started giggling and it felt like I was in the Joker's realm. Everything was funny, melty, wiggly. But this girl sat with us. We didn't really want to move because the world sort of kicked off. And this girl came up to us with this Batman mask. We just started going, "I'm Batman. I'm Batman." And it broke down the whole concept of the ridiculousness of identity for me. And I was like, I didn't need that at that point.
Yeah.
And
you don't need to be tripped out when you're doing yeah. Acid, that's for sure. Try and do it at Burning Man TC.
Okay.
Now that's an experience.
I'm sure it is.
Burning Man without drugs is an experience, but with a few helping hands.
You traveled. You did the it's a pilgrimage.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's like a week long thing. I mean, I went for 4 days. I think 4 days is enough.
How long is it?
7-day event.
Yeah, 4 days is enough, man.
Yeah, but it's crazy. It's an awesome place, and it's just mental. Yeah, I love it. It's like human beings coming together and forgetting all the crap.
Yeah.
It's not like a big corporate organized, festival with security and badges and this, that. No, it's just a bunch of people come together in the desert, period, stop.
They've gone far enough away to have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the desert outside Vegas. So people show up and, you and your mates will show up with a fire truck converted into like a shower machine. So the showers or whatever, and then somebody else will bring
Mad Max type shit.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. Like they come with all these modified vehicles to turn them into, like a flatbed lorry is now the stage for a DJ. You know what I mean, or whatever it is. And then a couple of days in, people start bartering, and they're like coming around going, "Oh, can we have a shower at your thing, and we'll give you a case of beer or whatever the case is." So you get to meet all these people and human beings coming together and just having a good time and getting to know each other without all the politics of life. And it's awesome.
That's really cool.
It's really amazing.
2 tangents here. One is the security for other festivals. I'll get onto that shortly, but maybe I won't. We'll see. But I did my dissertation on short titles, men and cars in film. Long title was The Deconstruction of Identity as an Insight into Masculinity, Man and His Relationship with the Vehicle. So you have stuff like Wolf of Wall Street. He's got this big white Ferrari. His sense of identity is fully fledged, speeding off into the horizon, wonderful, helping him throughout his life like a white tiger. and he thinks it's all fine, but then there's that drug trip in the film, and he's actually crashed the car, and so it's a failing identity. It's a falsehood. It's a false deity kind of thing. And then looked at stuff like I don't know, Sopranos. The whole beginning, every episode is him in his car in this little box, big chunker of a man, looking out, seeing the world through the lens of inside his car as he drives past the city and then goes into his sort of despot home in New Jersey where he stores all of his stuff, like some sort of dung beetle. Great man, but also kind of an immoral gangster. And so, but bring it, and then my last, this is where it gets relevant now. So bringing it in, the last chapter is called Triad of Fury. So I did what it's like for men to work together, and then you had the metaphor of the tank in Fury with Brad Pitt, the sort of collective we consciousness identity, looking at that kind of stuff. Fast and Furious 7, where they use these cars and the noises of NOS to highlight like how powerful family values are. So when Vin Diesel, the family man, against Jason Statham, the immoral kind of toxic masculine person, when he punches him, there's NOS sounds, and he goes 7 foot, and it's like, yeah, we're imbuing moral fiber into and into this kind of idea of their reality, and nossing it up basically. And then Mad Max Fury Road, you have all these villains in these massive cars. They're cars upon cars. They're monsters. They're crass. And then our main character, Tom Hardy, has his car stolen at the beginning. So his identity is gone, and we're discovering it throughout the film. Who is he? Well, his value's blood, not oil, nothing. He gives his blood to the deities, to wonderful things. Point being, going to a festival like Burning Man, to see people come with these intricate, authentic vehicles and trinkets and ways of getting there that actually benefit the whole festival, like showers and stuff.
Absolutely.
And different, it's really cool to see that's just people helping people, and that's expanded beyond just human vessels and actually within the functions of our vehicles. It's
awesome. I mean, people really spend serious time and effort, and a lot of time, money, to prepare these things. These are not just like, just fling something in a trailer or the back of your car. These are properly purpose-built machines that have been adapted from service machines, a lot of them, ambulances, fire trucks, whatever the case is. And they're now, proper purpose-built things. They're really cool. But, but the good part is, you get people from literally every corner of planet Earth coming there, and you meet just the most awesome people that bring their own foods and their own culture, their just sense of themselves, and you get to meet all these different people.
And when they're bringing trucks that for everyone, some people at some festivals just bring fucking bracelets and then a disposable tent. The idea of how much you're contributing when you've got to actually make that sense of a pilgrimage into the desert to bond with people, it just changes the frequency you're operating on. It takes heart to do that.
Everyone has to bring something to burn. That's the whole point of it, really. And kind of where it started is everyone brings a thing. And then that thing gets piled up at the end on the last day and set on fire, hence Burning Man. That's kind of the idea. And they still do it. I mean, people still bring old tires or pallets or wood or whatever. It's a great time. It's a great experience.
It's nice that it's deconstructive in that way as well, and an elimination. Like, I don't know what you took to burn, like, your ex's hat or something.
Wouldn't that be great?
I went to a festival in the middle of London, and We Are Fair. Well, it's a bit out on the east, but mostly I go to like Wireless, which is Finsbury Park in the central. But this one was a couple of weeks back, and they kept everybody cattle gridded for 2 hours to get in a day festival. It was really poor organisation. They should have had double, triple the amount of door entries and double the amount of staff for that if they're going to be that pedantic. Because they're like, well, someone died on MDMA and everyone's now going to be probed. It's like fair, but that's not what I paid for. And there's no one's giving out water. There was people fainting and stuff, and I felt really disillusioned because the thing is with things like that, no one's specifically responsible. So you can't be like you.
Yeah. It's your fault.
Get in the booby box. You're punished. You can't do it. And with regards to that, I was really happy to think how, like, I felt part of a generational disillusionment when basically there was a stampede. From the right across, like a Mexican wave of aggression. Everybody just went in, so no one had the bands to buy anything because it was like a noteless festival. But I felt I was firstly scared, and then all the males were kind of making sure all the women were okay, which is it's a nice thing to see. And then I was proud once I got in, because it's like, I'm glad no one here is tolerating that bullshit. We're not all in some weird purgatory. It's nice to feel like that's what happened.
That's just really, really poor organization, to be honest. And it's strange that would happen. I mean, it takes a huge amount of work to organize an event of that caliber. I mean, just massive. You've no idea how much work goes into organizing events, and then for them to have that so poorly orchestrated, and to not have the thought and the time and the logistics in place to get inside the people, which is the key to the success of their event, and the profitability of that as well. I mean, what
it was
the hell?
crazy.
Like,
I managed to pick up 3 of the wristbands,
Yeah.
because I saw someone nabbing a few, and I thought, I have to get them, otherwise I can't buy anything. But there was so many people. They must have made a loss, like, because no one could buy alcohol or food because it was a cashless festival. So, but like, say I have no idea. I mean, I've organised. I don't, but I've organised. I was the head year in my school, so I organised the photo yearbook, and I've organised some big birthday parties. But you've organised the Gold Movie Awards, like.
Yeah.
How much of the year does that take up?
All of it.
Yeah.
Every day, 365. Not joking. I'm not being facetious either. I'm being serious. Every single day. I mean, don't get me wrong. We run our production company, and we have, I'm an actor producer. The Old Film Farm.
Cool.
So so every day we'll do something on the Gold Movie Awards, but today might not be a GMA day. Today might be more a production day, but there's something happening at all times. And when we maybe take a step back for a day, there's a number of things happening. I mean, there's several deals in negotiation at the moment. Several different things, we'll say. That are at different levels of negotiation, essentially, But yeah, it takes.
It's interesting because there's a gift and a curse of being kind of creative in those kind of respects, because you have to spin a lot of plates at once. Most millionaires as well have over 5 separate sources of income.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how you got to be thinking about stuff. If you're focusing on one thing. If you're focusing subjectively, you're generally losing the objective picture. And if you're permanently objective and never dealing with small bits, you're losing the subjective things, and things fuck up.
I mean, we have, as I said, we have our production stuff. We have, I don't even know, I think we have 15, 16, something like that, projects on our slate. So, and then there's the GMAs, and then there's also, we're opening a couple of different departments of the Gold Movie Awards this year as well. So there's over 20 different things happening at one time. And with the production side of things, there's everything. There's movies, feature film and short, there's television series, there's documentaries, there's music videos, all sorts of things, but mainly feature and television. And there's a number of them that are at different levels of development, different levels of finance, and that's a day-to-day, play it by ear thing. I mean,
different hats.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 projects now that I'm sort of focused on, mainly of the 15, because those are the ones that I think will be the next ones to stick, the next ones to happen, essentially, the next ones will film. But then something could happen.
So when you're saying 15 floating about, you're talking about whether you're getting funding or seeing how it's going to land into reality. Exactly.
We'll eventually we'll make all of them, we hope, But, as I said, there's 3 that's moving I would say maybe a little quicker than some of the others, and
Yeah.
some of the
You can't predict it as well.
exactly, some of the pieces have fallen into place, and when you're dealing with, budgets of, 2 and 3 and 4 and up 10 and 12 millions, up in the millions, then you need star power to sell that. So therefore you need A-list actors, famous actors. And when you're dealing with people of that level, then you're subject to their schedule. You're subject to the fact that they only do what they want to do. They don't need the job. So they choose what they want to do. And you could have a great script that actor X would normally take in a heartbeat, but maybe he or she has done a movie or a TV series that's quite similar to your one previously, so therefore they're not going to do any more, say, war pictures for the next 7 movies. So there's a number of things, and there's the politics of it as well.
Typecast.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, they don't want to do too many things that's similar because most actors, if not all, try to have the last project be as different from the previous one as possible.
Except Keira Knightley, of course, because it's just period drama after period drama.
Well, she does. I mean,
I like her in a period dress, though.
She looks great in a period film, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's certain people that have.
It's that malnourished look that makes me think, you haven't been exposed to the calorific modern America.
No. I mean, she is very good. I mean, I think she looks great in that period stuff, and those Dior commercials she does and everything else. And I think she's quite funny.
I have literally no cross. I'm just taking the mic. She's cool. What else was I going to say? The idea that you're putting forward there of one, the actors having their way, and that's something to deal with, and also this idea of figuring out what lands first. For me, speaks to you've seen the Terminator movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, number 2, right? So you got Schwarzenegger, this 80s version of masculinity, but before him, I don't know, when he came, it's suddenly, man can be this full god of a man. He's saying I can take on the world and then some. And the first film, he's a villain. Second film, he's a hero against a fluid thing. This new, I can do anything and all at once.
T-800 Mark II.
Yeah. You got to think different. And I like looking at metaphors like that for what's it saying? What we're dealing with here? What's scary about it? Well, for a man who's I've made a business, I've been an independent man, and I'm from the baby boom, and I'm going for it. There's the Terminator, and the first one, he's a villain because it's probably a bit tyrannical in the world, right? When you got people just dominating everything, that masculine thing that feminist movements hate. Just you got Schwarzenegger there, just being able to say, I will destroy you and your child and the future from connecting us too much to computers and getting out in touch with nature.
Yeah.
Second film.
Look how that's went.
Say that again.
Look how that's gone.
Yeah. Second film, he's a hero because he's such an interesting dude. But then he's protecting the woman. So the masculine then becomes a protector of the feminine against a new age masculine thing that's fluid and all over the place and unstoppable in being just ceaseless. Now that was everybody loves Terminator 2, but the new Terminators, it's interesting to see that they kind of go into a different space where they're not. I don't think they were as well received.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the Genesis one, the one that Emilia Clarke done with Jason Clarke also. I actually really enjoyed it. I mean, it got slated, but I actually quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, where they go back in time at different times. And I enjoyed it, but I know why people don't, and one of the reasons why I think is because they are very invested in that dialogue that I just kind of created, where I'm looking into metaphors and ideas. I think they invested quite hard. They invested quite hard into that because suddenly, they're asking you to look at more than what meets the eye. Unlike a Nolan film, where it's this is reality, which I think the older ones kind of did. The anxiety about computers getting bigger and bigger. But now we kind of know Apple's like got that kind of false, like, here's the calligraphy, and there's actually limits to it, and I think we're a little bit more disillusioned, so it's not as scary to project out.
But I mean, and the original ones in the 80s, I mean, it was probably a big scary thought to think that, you know, the computers, the Skynet or whatever they called it, was going to take over. But now in today's world, I mean, computers and technology is part and parcel of everyday life.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like, you know, back in the original movies, if you would have said, you know, something to the equivalence of Siri or driverless cars or, you know, this kind of stuff, that would have been a scary thought. Whereas today, that's part of life now. We have that now. You know, driverless cars and Siri and Uber and all the different things now. So to suggest that the computers are taking over is not a scary thing, because they have.
Yeah.
They have. It's already here. But, you know, I don't think it's just big of a scary thought. And I don't think we ever believe that, you know, robots are going to take over in that sense. You know, they're going to be marching down the street and, you know.
And if they do, it's in this... There's that it's a non-literal idea of how they take over. This is where, like, again, a metaphor, so Autobots versus Decepticons, right? Are we assuming that the other than that the film's creating, this CGI amazing monsters, are they made as a fiber of the new thing that we look at, the unknown, which reality is made of, or at least the 3D screen? Is it made of some moral fiber, like the Autobots automatically adhering to a good way of being, or are we permanently being deceived? Is it Decepticons? Is there things going on that's malevolent and sinister in nature, outside of our realm of control? And for me, stuff like these echo chambers of Facebook and a lot of these social medias where they give you this mirror maze of what you want to hear back. It's kind of like a weird fractal, because it's an odd pattern, and can give me a lot of anxiety. And it's really like my phone broke the other day, and I just really enjoyed 48 hours without a phone,
with peace and quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, there is people are addicted to their phones, to social media, to the connection of it, you know. And when your battery dies, you do feel like this loss nearly, you know, until it's back on again, which is a weird thing, you know. You know, it's like, does the phone beep and then we go to it, or, you know, or when it beeps and goes off, you know, who's controlling who, basically, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you become that synonymous, then the computers have one.
Yeah, they have. I mean, if there was a metaphorical switch to switch off the internet, imagine if you could do that. The world would grind to a halt. I mean,
you can imagine fucking Skynet now just being like, the voice is, we have one.
Yeah.
You are in our image. We are not in yours.
I mean,
there are children of the millennial generation that only exist in the way they do purely because of our influence. And it's really fucked up.
Man, it's terrible. I do honestly have a big problem with social media. I mean, I know we use it, and I use it, you know, and we use it for work and media purposes and so on, and for those reasons, I suppose it's pretty good. But I think it's surpassed quite a while ago what it was set out to be, which is a place to connect people and to give people the ability to talk and, you know, catch up and reconnect and all that kind of stuff, which on the face of it's good. But now
it shouldn't be deeper than that.
No, I mean, the algorithms now that's running those platforms are so entwined with everything that you do. It's a spy bot, really. I mean, it's looking at everything you do, everything you say, where you look at, who you talk to, what you talk about, and then it's orchestrating ads to fit your need, whatever the hell that is.
That's kind of like skunk weed, in the sense that they overbreed it until the masculine and feminine elements of it, of THC and CBD, are in separate places. The reason I'm saying that is like, oh, you bought some shoes. Here's some more shoes. Buy some fucking shoes.
Yeah.
If it didn't do that, and the algorithm, you wouldn't want the alternative. I don't know what the answer is. You wouldn't want one going, oh, you've bought shoes. You should probably buy socks now. You wouldn't want it reading that far, because that's really disturbing. But the idea that it gives you more of what you've already got is strange. Mainly because the whole basis of these things are based on profit, which is based on expansion.
Of course.
Which is based on... That's kind of false. I think we come from a neutral space, but the numbers and the way kind of a lot of different aspects of culture work anyway, is like, it only works if we're expanding. And I think, throw that out, that's a bit of a, there's something dead about that idea.
There is, I mean...
At least in its naive and non-complex approach. If you're not thinking, maybe we are expanding, but in totally different ways. Sometimes you've got to transform to expand, not just get bigger. You know? Yeah.
I mean, if you were to believe what Mark Zuckerberg says when he created Facebook, which is, a non-profit place to go and connect. If it ever was that, it certainly is not anymore. I mean, it's just a big money-making machine now.
Yeah.
And, it's also one of the things it used to be, which the internet used to be, is a democratic place. It's no longer that anymore. I mean, if you go on and, I don't know, we'll use, say, Trump, for example. Like, if you're an anti-Trump person, which I assume you probably are as a rational thinking person, all you're ever going to see in your feed is anti-Trump stuff and people who agree with your sentiment. Whereas if you're pro-Trump, say, for example, then you're only going to see that kind of stuff. So therefore, we're kept separate. It's not a democratic place where you put your opinion there and you have a diplomatic debate about whatever it is you're talking about. I mean, you're only ever going to see people who share your values and your mentality, your thought process. So therefore, you're in one big gang or cult, dare I say.
Circle jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you physicalized it, let's give it a Native American setting. Let's say the shaman's saying, before you go and have your party evening where you connect with the stars and everything, I'm going to ask you a question. And then whoever says yes and whoever says no, he secretly tells them 2 different locations. And then they say, the devils are coming. Go fight him. And both of them, from 2 separate tribes, run at each other in the night thinking the other is the unknown, fear-based, nasty thing. It's polarized. I don't know the world that I'm not shown. And so for me, because I don't know them, it's like there's some malevolent bloody idiots out there that piss me off for existing, that I can't connect with in the way that I connect with people that don't think in the way that the computer understands I think. I mean, I got into a big noodle tangle with, I said, when we broke up on Brexit, when the Brexit thing happened, I said, I don't know anyone who voted for it. And some of my own family went, well, you should visit more because we did that. And it was like, okay. My friends then berated her because they would have never seen anybody commenting like that on a Facebook thing, and she's no longer friends with me on Facebook. My own aunt's not friends with me on Facebook.
Damn, man. Wow.
If I knew, I'd talk about it if I knew, but because the conversation can't happen in this polarized way. Same with interviews, right? If I had you and I went, this is what journalists kind of, we had to do it in uni. They go, we have to have a balanced argument. So they get a gay rights activist, and then they get someone who's kind of more bigoted for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that's balanced argument and you're like, okay. But then they get equal amount of time, and generally the person who's less conscientious is less conscientious how much time they take up. So it becomes not balanced. It's like you don't have to balance out the bully and the victim all the time.
Not at all, no.
So it's not. So it's a weird framework in that respect. If it's not approached conscientiously.
Yes, I mean you don't have to have a. I mean, yeah, you should have a balanced argument, yes, but by bringing in someone who is, very far left wing on whichever topic it is, and then bringing in someone who's very far right wing on the same topic, you're not getting a rational perspective from either people's camp. You're getting the crazy person from this camp and the crazy person from this camp, and they're just yelling at each other, and that's not a debate. That's just 2 morons from each side of this coin, who are idiots for their own reasons.
Yeah, and most essay writing requires you to go, I'm going to reflexively answer the question, deconstruct the question, and realize that it's both, not one or the other. Because generally, questions and essays are this or this, and you go, well, it's actually both, and like, but so journalism requires an intelligent audience, and when you don't have one, that should be considered. Like news, that's odd. Everybody gets their information from like a TV box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting.
mean, that's the news. That's funny you should mention the news is. I mean, I don't know when the last time I seen news on the news. I mean, it's all
that's
just
what I'm talking about with
orchestrated
this
bullshit
thing.
Yeah.
These like I don't engage with that whole side of things as much as like Love Island is just as much the news for me because it's what we talk about. Where I get the news is probably on. In the same way of me reading a newspaper, Facebook's feed or Instagram feed is now that. Instagram, like Facebook did that with articles. Instagram's when I can't be bothered to do that, and then I'm just looking at smiling faces of my friends. And is it the news? Well, yes. To be honest, I do want to just know where if my friends have gone to Italy or Australia, if they're eating cool food, and it allows that. You know, my news can become a subjective experience of maybe just Charles Solly, not Charles Solly on Earth while people are bombing others in Afghanistan or Syria or whatever. And there's a bliss in that ignorance that who knows if it's right or wrong.
There absolutely is. I think that's going back to the whole social media and reality TV as well. That's this whole celebritante culture that we live in, that everyone wants to be famous. Whatever the hell that is anymore. And you want to be famous. Okay, why? What do you do? Nothing. Why do you want to be famous? Cause. That's everyone wants it.
The objective.
Yeah, they want to be famous, and they want it now, and they don't want to do anything for it. And that and there's lots of ways to do that. You got these reality shows where people go on and they're churned out by the producers of those shows. Like it's just a meat market, and when they've used you up and you're done, that's it. You're thrown to the scrap heap.
There's no one playing everybody has this guilty pleasure with Love Island, and which I think is hilarious, because it's this, But what's interesting about something like that is there's no alternative options as to how they approach the social dynamic on a show like that. You're kind of watching these boxed gibbons because they've all got a similar, and they'll go, he's not my type, but he is, and they're the same fucking human being.
Yeah,
they've got Ken Barbie dolls there. So, some of them are Scousers, but
I think so. You know.
There's none of them sat there going, can't we all just be friends? That I'm speaking with the girls and I want to stay in the show, because the producers have actively picked it to not be that. So it's odd.
Yeah, I mean, the people get on that show is they pick the most extremes because they're trying to make 22 minutes of television. So, and I get what they're doing, but
say 22. These are an hour a day. That's why I think is it half an hour?
Is it not half-hour shows? I don't know. I don't watch it.
It's an hour.
Oh dear God!
They do an hour a day for 8 weeks.
46 minutes of television, and oh dear God! Oh, I couldn't. Shoot me in the face. No, thank you. No, I mean it's just look. If there's a place for reality TV, whatever, but the whole world, especially the younger generations, are just so consumed by the celebrity. You know what I mean? When and don't get me wrong, like you said, there is ignorance because the world is a fucked up place, dear God, and it's maybe past the point of return at this point. I don't know. I mean, that's a very negative thing to say, I suppose, but there's a place for, like you said, ignorance is bliss, and there's a lot of things going on in the world, and people like to just live within their own little bubble, and there is, as I said, ignorance and bliss in that ignorance, but when there's serious things like starving kids or wars or bombs or genocide or whatever going on, and the front page of the newspaper is Kim Kardashian got a new dog, who gives a fuck? Seriously, who cares? And as well, people
tapping into dopamine, basically. Newspapers. Sugar's a cocaine, but like in contemporary culture, how it's sold and stuff, but also just tapping into dopamine itself. If you put dopamine into the brain of a rat, put into one side of the brain, it will react through fear. You'll think there's a predator there. It will shake. Put it into the other side of the brain, it eats twice as much, 3 times as much as it did before, and it's just very busy, like somebody, like, and so it kind of triggers this part of the brain that says, this is important, watch this. Porn does the same thing. Look at this. This is what you need to know because it'll help your survival or your reproduction. And that's what shows like Love Island do. It seems like, oh my God, like, because it gives this objective perspective on a scenario. A film can give you this idea that, especially if it's good camera work and everything, you're being guided through a world, and information is being revealed in this interesting way. But in something like Love Island, you tap into the drama of your egoic like child self, where you're like, oh my God, that just happened, and now I get to hear them speak about it, and the other people speak about it, and I don't miss out on any of it. And it's like that FOMO feeling shown for you, and you get to just sit there, and it's mind numbing.
It is. I mean, I get it that everyone likes to just switch your brain off sometimes and be entertained. But I think I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I think there's better ways to entertain yourself.
There is.
Even if it's mindless drivel that you're watching, I think you can watch better stuff than.
I prefer cartoons.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Absolutely, I'd watch Archer any day of the week over that.
Yeah.
Garbage. I mean, it's just awful
I
stuff.
like when you're watching something like Family Guy and you think, I understand this humor, like, I'm just really calm and tired, like, long day. And then it will catch you off guard, and you'll go, there's so much intelligence in this.
Oh, it's so smart.
And my mind just, I'm warmed because I'm just open and alive again.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think that's why as well, a lot of content across many mediums is taking a very satirical look at society in recent years. And I think that's because people have never been more awake, if you will, than they are right now, and we're still asleep. But we're getting there.
And it's difficult because in that sense, because I understand the sleeping space. You get a deadline. You can spin 50 plates for that deadline. Deadline comes, and you just say, let them crash.
Yep.
And you take a week, and then you're in that sleeping state again. It's not, but like a day cycle, I don't think we want everybody awake. We want them awake for moments, and we want them not going back to sleep forever. We just want the frequency to come. Well, I say we. I imagine that would be the trajectory of, like, how I imagine consciousness going. I wouldn't want the sleeping space of being able to binge watch shit to go. Because it's how we all connect in that unconscious vegetable, like what we dream of and how we naturally think. It's where it's all connected. But we like the surge of new, authentic people that are making their own paths. Not like one great Nile getting thicker and creating a bloody what's it called when you're underwater? Flood.
Oh yeah.
It's more like the stream needs to open up into lots of more intricate paths. Yeah. And that's why I got you on the podcast, and I approached you because I was really proud to turn up to an event. I think I've been to 4 film festivals within the last year, and yours is certainly my favorite.
Thanks, man.
The venue is really cool. It allowed the space to where you mingle before and after. The quality of it and the presentation was all just really there and quite considered. You go to some and they'll be like, there's no seating, like really hot. They've got like really posh finger food, but no idea. You don't know where you're supposed to go. You just don't feel as considered. You don't feel as a part of something. To create an inclusive environment where like-minded people can bond, it's a real cool thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's going really well, and to be honest with you, I mean, there's no one more surprised than myself. I mean, we started this now, I'd say 6 years ago, but we're now moving into the 4th year, the 3rd live year, but the 4th technically 4 years, the third live year, because the first year was online. And then, you know, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work, you know, and we've been, myself and Marco and Anthony and our team, we've been working very, very hard for you know, a lot of years now. But we have a great team around us as well. I mean, there's David and Lindsay and Kerry here from the Regent Street Cinema. Those guys are the points from the venue, and they're just amazing people. They're so helpful, and they've helped us to bring the event to what it was last year. And then, of course, then we have London Flair with Catherine Lynn Scott, who's our press officer, publicist. And, you know, together, the whole lot of us, you know, we all believed in the idea when we pitched it to them. And, you know, it was very clear to us that these folks didn't take the contract as just another job. Like, yes, it's a job, of course, but you know, they believe in the idea and they believe in what we're doing, and they work so hard to helping us, to working with us to make the event what it was last year. And now next year we're actually opening as well in the lobby. We're taking over the whole building here next year. So we had this venue, I say last year, but it's 4 months ago.
Yeah.
It's for my own sanity, I say last year. But yeah, so the next edition, which is going to be January 9th, 2020, right here at the Regent Street Cinema, we're taking over the whole building, like the whole University of Westminster.
It's a really cool building, this one.
It's awesome. It's so beautiful.
I was really proud to be a part of it, going to university here. I mean, we were up in the campuses in Harrow, but coming in, and then the libraries are also, I don't know if you've been in them, but they're
amazing.
Yeah. And because I had the pass to get in on a night out, it gets cold and rainy when I was on Oxford Street, I just come and jam in here with you know, get like a either bring a croissant or a bagel or something and have that time till the storm blows over or whatever. Like,
nice.
A couple of times, yeah, it was interesting. It's like my little part of Hogwarts, because I didn't really get that with my previous schools. So
okay,
it was nice.
And it's an awesome place. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's the birthplace of British cinema here, and as I said, the oldest movie theater in the world. You know, and next year we're opening the what we're calling the GMA Expo, which is the first baby steps towards opening what I can't believe isn't already an established thing here, but the UK doesn't have it, which is a film market. They don't have one, so we're going to make one. So we're opening.
What a can-do attitude! I like it.
Yeah,
we don't have one. We're gonna make one.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
why not? You know.
Yeah, good.
I mean, like, you know,
people have been asking why for a very long time, and why not? That's the kind of postmodern idea. You said the world's past the point of return, but like we're not supposed to return to Eden. Like, you know, I'm what's it called? Going for one here, but you don't want to return to innocence. Innocence for me had no, like, I didn't know anything about women when I was innocent. I mean, so you don't want that. You're supposed to go. They acknowledge sin in those Eden stories, and then they go forward and go, look, Adam, you're not victim to God anymore. You're not bringing on God's ideas and implementing them on nature. I have bitten the apple. I've given in to the material world. I've said I want it. I said I want food. I want sex. I want closeness. I want a house. I want warmth. I want shelter. I want these things. It's not a sin. And they have to move forward, and then they have to figure out how to do that with the whole world. And with regards to that, bringing it back in here, God, I went off on one. Saying why became what happened with the idea of postmodernism. So you had the idea that culture is influencing us more than nature, and so we have to. So postmodern anxiety is this idea that you've got such a plethora of streams that you have to be skeptical and doubtful of all things because you can't take it for face value because it's constructed in some way. But Shia LaBeouf and some other actors have been looking at this idea of a movement of metamodernism, meta meaning beyond, not post being after. And so it's kind of like beyond culture, not after culture. We're not victim to culture. We're not like the X-Men with our authentic abilities and eccentricities at the side, like in minorities. We're it's good to be able to go like, I'm able to do this. I'm going to combine my creative side and my more mathematical linear side of organization and maybe engineering or conceptual engineering at least, and go forward and do something that's where there's a unique selling point and a need. Like,
I think we're all evolving, into the next era of man, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And going back is not an option, and people are, some more than others, are desperately clamoring on to their culture and their heritage, and that's great. I mean, don't get me wrong, don't forget your culture and your heritage, but I mean, we are in infancy as humankind, as mankind. We're in our infancy. We're only babies, and to try and hold on to something that I think we're inevitably going to have to let go of. And I think if we allow ourselves to get out of our own way, eventually we'll all become, I'd say, just one big mixing pot. It'll not be, French and British and black and white and Asian and Hispanic, and it'll just be
most beautiful people
human.
Are hybrids.
It'll just
as well.
be like a,
Look at Halle Berry. You know what I mean? It's nice to have variety, but where you mix polarities is the most beautiful thing. A very manly man and a very womanly woman can be beautiful.
Absolutely.
We're not actually looking for the postmodern ideal of like androgyny. As fascinating as it is, it doesn't polarize me. It doesn't actually stimulate me. It makes me curious. I'm interested. I'm like, what's going on there? But there's a question mark there, not an exclamation mark. So I'm not as alive because I don't know how to speak to some of them because I don't really want to be spoken to. It's like a smoker's corner.
Yeah.
I used to think smokers' corners were like, there was a big, I've got your nose. It was, we're the people of the dark, the spiders and the bats. We know something you don't. We bond over something cold and dark, vampiric. They're actually, from my experience, a lot of smokers' corners, other than in drinking scenarios, because you're getting air and that's where you chat away from the beat. The smokers' corners are actually all individually detaching in the same place.
Yep.
And that whole kind of nicotine culture saddens me often because I try and digest any experience I'm having. And if somebody that's like odd comes odd or just negative comes about, if I care for them, I'll try and translate. Like, I felt this off you, and this is how you doing? Like, what's up? But if it's affecting me, I'll try and transmute it with my friends. Like, oh, this happened. But when you smoke, you're not actually digesting this information. You're just going, and it floats off into these clouds. And it's like saying I'm not responsible for being conscious of these things. I'm going to allow them to float back into the unconscious of it. Yeah. And the idea that it affects your lungs, your ability to transmute the air you breathe.
It's a weird thing to do, to smoke a cigarette. It's a weird thing, but
it's really abstract, isn't it?
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to get this plant, we're going to dry it, we're going to chop it, we're going to roll it in something, we're going to put it in our mouths and light it. You'd be like, why the fuck would you do that?
Yeah. That's awesome. Just went leprechaun mode there.
But no, I've got Irish cousins that give me that sense of perspective of like, I don't know, you get the impression that they're not hobbity, because I think where I'm from in New Forest is a bit like that, but just the idea that they could just look at something from a totally outside perspective and a real heartful one. I get a really warm feeling from the Irish accent. So the idea of like something I really affiliate with being like, that's quite an abstract thing to do now. Yeah.
It is, yeah. But no, it's unique, that you were talking about cigarettes, that's a drug that's killing so many people. And yet there's so much stigma put around, like, things that have very obvious health benefits, like pot, like marijuana, which has been legalized in a lot of places for so long, and it's still stigmatized here. I think we're close to legalization though, but I'd say so.
Yeah, I like the word pot for it. I haven't thought of it like this before, but for me, when I'm being creative now, kind of had to enter a new sort of frequency of sort of new modality, quite high octane, because a lot of people who smoke they need an outlet that feels more in tune with their own idea of some kind of maternal, loving space where they can just be woozy and lucid in some sort of wonderful, interconnected ocean of thought and dream and feeling and sense and experience. But when I'm kind of becoming quite fulfilled creatively, if I then smoke weed, it's like what originally opened me up from some sort of will from in between is like, this is the way of the world. I want a director's chair. To sort of, you know, festivals and weed and such like that open me up to thinking it's more. It's not some trajectory from past to future. It's a present thing, you know, and that's where innocence can be found again for me. Is this present space? I feel like there's an innocence with you. I don't think you're beyond innocence.
No. I mean, I grew up in California, you know, where weed's been legal for a long time, and it's just part and parcel of everyday life. Yeah. You know, and everyone smokes it. It's just like it's nothing, you know. And I've seen stigma change over the years, you know. But for a long time, it was this like, you know, this weird thing, you know. And over there,
a lot of people. The reason being, I think, a lot of people aren't actually in tune with all of who they are. They're a mind in a body. They're not really identifying with. A lot of people don't even like their own feet. They're just not. They're not in their body thinking like an animal, you know. And it puts you in tune with that. And so if you've got stuff you haven't dealt with, you've got desires you're not dealing with, you're not in control all of a sudden. You don't know what you're going to say. That's why people don't like a lot of drugs. Well, Robin Williams said sobriety is a safety net for those that can't cope with drugs. And it was just this interesting, I think it was in his comedy sketch, you know, because I don't like, clearly he was a fascinating, wily genie of a man.
Yeah.
And sometimes he just seemed really tortured by this kind of like total plugged into a voltage. Like
he just seemed like he was on all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved him. I thought he was great. And, you know, God rest him. It's terrible, you know, terrible what happened. Whatever happened. I mean, depression, I think, was it?
My uncle died of Parkinson's, though, and the slow...
Is that what it was, Parkinson's?
He was diagnosed with Parkinson's and dementia.
Oh,
I'm pretty
right,
sure.
okay.
And then he was later found dead. So I think having killed himself. So that depression may have always been there. He's got amazing quotes like, you know, it's the happiest people that you don't believe their smiles. They're happy because they know what it feels like to be alone, and they're making people feel, you know, more connected. And that's a weird thing with this, like, this like Illuminati idea. I find it interesting when people play with that, like the ideas of conspiracy theories of there's people controlling it all, which is what we assume with these computers. There's something controlling it. I didn't think there's this malignant, benign force behind stuff, but what there is people controlling stuff. There's people like James Cameron,
absolutely.
Spielberg, but they're in touch with their sort of childlike fascination and doing things that gets passed down in hierarchies that people assume there's something nasty at the top of that hierarchy. I can only really speak for the creative industries. At the top of it is people actually doing acting very high frequency, thinking of the whole picture and dealing with shit. And then there's people that are doing what they say, and then that and the sort of HODs, and it filters down. It's not Thanos at the top.
No.
You know, it's more
generally
like
not. No, not.
Hopefully not.
I mean, I wouldn't not. Maybe well, I mean, not.
Sometimes there are, but I'm talking about where I think the source of life is. That's a more of a creative principle in tune with principle of life. That that's
I'd agree with
how
that.
I see stuff happening. I mean, there is going to be structures, and producer-led films can be like that, because it's like, this is happening because I'm paying you to do like this, to do like that.
Yeah,
and that's kind of.
I mean, if
you can tell them.
Absolutely. Oh God, absolutely. I mean, generally, I mean, if your producer understands, you know, where the creativity comes from and allows the creative people on his or her film to do their thing, then that's great. But when they step in and take creative decisions, you know, like oh my God, what's his name? He's the producer, Jerry Bruckheimer. He stepped
Right.
in on the third Pirates of the Caribbean. First one, great movie. Second one, good movie. Third one, piece of shit.
Yeah.
And that was because Jerry Bruckheimer, who's a great producer, he's not a creative person. You know, allow the creatives to do their thing. He didn't, and that movie turned out to be garbage.
Yeah. Well, I honestly think this idea of what's it called when you get like a free audience in?
The screening days, test days.
Yeah. I think we need to do a test day. I think some people just get hard-ons for these test days, man.
Yeah.
They're like, they're just like, we're gonna bring them in, and then we're gonna do a reshoot. Okay, we're gonna change the ending. Okay, because we didn't like the ending. It's like, well, who said that? The guy who wrote Citizen Kane, I think. Spoke about the artist informs the critique, the critic informs the masses, which is interesting because with regards to these screenings, like show it to your critical thinkers, other directors, people that are your inner circle that you can, showing it to audiences, they'll go, I didn't like that he died. It's just so sad.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine if bloody La La Land.
Yeah,
they should be together. They need to be together.
I mean, the thing, like, people keep asking the general public. Stop asking the general public. No, I mean, we do it.
People hired politicians because they know they're shit.
Yeah.
The engineer doesn't go, I don't know, how would you like the piping?
Yeah, let's have a vote.
I mean, you got a leak. Yeah, well, you wanted it that way, mate.
Yeah,
I
mean, that's what? Like, why do we keep asking? Like, they're like, let's ask the British public, stop doing that.
Because some people who are intimidated by intelligence identify as intelligent. They don't want to have a conversation.
We asked the British public and we got Brexit. We asked the American public and we got Trump. Stop asking the public. 90% of them are fucking mouth-breathing idiots. Stop. Like,
Peep Show, they say that as well. The public voted for Nazism. Don't trust the public.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's crazy. We keep asking.
They literally did, though, and I think it's crazy.
I know.
Comparisons, it's weird. It's crazy.
It is. It's mental. And now we're in a sticky old pickle now, and
Pickle Rick.
Pickle Rick. Oh, I love it with Rick and Morty, man. I love it with Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I'm big fan.
Yeah.
I would be sat there thinking, is this allowed?
Yeah.
Is this allowed? And
I love that it's not, and they just put it out anyway.
Yeah.
FX just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And I love that. CW as well, and I love the Channel 4 are, careful now, Jason. They're one of the only ones who I don't know if it's official, but their mantra, if you will, is if people aren't talking about us, we're not doing our job right. And I love the Channel 4 don't mind pushing the ball, pushing the boundary, you know what I mean, in a country that is so quintessentially British. I mean, it is Britain, obviously, but it's stiff upper lip and all that, the typical old British ways. And some of the networks here are very reserved, you know what I mean? That one up there being the most reserved.
Which is odd because they made extras.
They did.
So I think that's interesting where some people were able to cross the threshold.
But that's Ricky, though. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
Well, how did that come about? Like, The Office was...
Well, yeah, I mean...
Why?
Which was first, was it?
The Office,
The Office was first, then Extras.
Life's Too Short.
That was so good, eh?
Loved it.
So
I've met Warwick
good.
Davis.
Huh?
I've met Warwick Davis.
Have you met him?
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
I went to a Comic-Con. It was our group had said it was a odd mix of people, and we'd all said it's Star Wars themed for us. We're the Star Wars clan. We had a young hip hop version of a guy doing Samuel Jackson. He was Samuel Jackson's character with Mace Windu, but with a wig and glasses from Pulp Fiction.
Right.
I was Jabba the Hutt.
Okay.
In an inflatable thing with a fan, and my girlfriend at the time was the slave Princess Leia, and I had her on a chain. And meeting Warwick, he was just like, "What the fuck?" And I thought it was interesting that when there's a celebrity that you meet, they're the thing, they're the star striking thing.
Yeah.
But he was like, "What?" you know.
Yeah.
And I was quite nice by that. I thought, oh, that's really cool. He's an amazing awareness, because I think he's obviously used to being at people's sort of need to hip height.
Yeah.
To you, it's a new thing to interact with someone at that height. So, well, I don't know if I don't know if I'm supposed to bend down or kind of squat down and be like, how are you doing? But he's just like that. Like
What is the etiquette with that? I don't quite know. Are you meant to just what do you do?
I think as long as you're not being
Like, what does he prefer?
as long as you're not talking down to someone in tone, I don't think he'd give a fuck.
Okay.
And if he does, he's so used to it. He's kind of aware that it's an anomaly, and that's the impression I got. It's a very considered guy.
Yeah.
I think for him to be as successful as he is, he has to be that considered.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's something he has
That's
to,
where it comes from.
it's an everyday
If he
thing.
was like, sorry, it's Ms. or whatever, you know, if he was of that level of potential, people wouldn't work with him.
No, definitely not.
And
No.
people don't seem to realise that is the fluid, terminated state of how we get things done. Is you kind of got to have that fluidity to you, where you're not instantly judging people for judging you and your idea of them judging or whatever it is.
And the biggest stars that I've worked with and met and whatever, you know, are the loveliest people.
Yeah.
You know, they have nothing to prove. They have nothing to prove. You know, I mean, you know, one of the nicest guys I've worked with in a long time is Gerard Butler, and he's just a lovely guy. He's just such a nice fella, you know.
You were
and
on the new President's Eagles Down film.
No, I wasn't. Same company though. I done a movie called Hunter Killer with him about 2 years ago. Came out last year.
Cool.
With Gerard Butler and Gary Oldman, Common, and Billy Bob Thornton, and a bunch of others. But I done Billy Bob. He's a character. I done most of my scenes with Gerard though, and Common, and a few of the guys. We were in the submarine. But yeah, he's such a. I mean, we spent like two months, like something like 8 weeks or something, filming in Elstree and out in Pinewood. Yeah, and I always say the same thing about Jerry. He's a Scotsman who happens to be a movie star, not the other way around. You know, he's just a lovely guy. Just you know, kind of guy you want to go to the pub with for a few beers and just shoot the shit, and you know.
That's kind of what I was trying to get to with this Illuminati. People at the top of a pyramid aren't looking at a pyramid. They're not thinking in terms of pyramids and hierarchical structures. They're authentically being them and making sure that they can have their experience around the world. That's my experience anyway, and that's how that idea helps me have a much more fulfilling life than if I'm thinking like, oh God, I'm gonna press this guy.
But that's the thing. See, they don't have nothing to prove. They don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah.
And for those reasons, they're just really nice people, you know, and they have fun. They've worked very hard over the years, and they've achieved a certain level in their career, and you know, people know who they are, I guess, or whatever, and they don't have to prove anything, and they're great people, and they're in it for the right reasons, I think. Well, I hope so at this point. But it's the people who have a little bit of fame, you tend to find are the divas. You know, they're the ones that are maybe not as pleasant to be around at all times.
Disillusionment trip yet as well.
What's that?
They probably haven't had that disillusionment trip.
Yeah.
That grounding, humbling, what I just fucking do.
Yeah.
Who am I right now?
Exactly. They get to, you know, some big opportunity to be in the next Star Wars, and that's ironic you should bring it up. I've never actually seen any of them. Would you believe that?
Wow.
None of them. And I was working, God rest him,
Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's not seen Star Wars.
I know. I've never admitted that actually to anyone before.
Well, it's public now. It's public information.
But I was actually I was working with.
You seem embarrassed. Let me just ease this.
Not at all.
I hadn't seen I hadn't seen any of the Matrix till I was like 20, and it was it became this experience at university where it was the first time I probably was like. I knew it was perfect timing. I was of a space where I had a plethora of language and looking at these different theorists and stuff that when they said quotes that were straight out of philosophy books and stuff, I knew what was going on. It came at the right time, and so I hope. New hope. I hope that it will come at the right time for you. You're going to enjoy Star Wars.
I mean, yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of got to the point where I haven't seen it for so long now that it's gone past. It's kind of like, you know, with somebody when you meet them, you know, and you didn't catch the name straight away, but you've been talking for 2 hours. It's gone past the point where you can go, "What's your name?" You know what I mean? It's gone past the point where I can watch those movies.
I'd suggest.
Having said that,
Yeah.
someone told me recently, you know, okay, forget the old ones. Start with the new ones, the one where John Boyega started off. Start with the first of his movies, you know. So I did, and I was like, okay, cool, because this is going to be, it's J.J. Abrams. It's going to be the best filmmaking. It's going to be the highest budgets. The special effects going to be insane, and it was all those things. But I mean, I got about 15 minutes into it, and the girl, whatever her name is, she was her character. I mean, she was underneath the spaceship, and she stole the spaceship at the start. You remember that bit?
I'm glad you see these issues.
Yeah, but like, she was banging on about all this space jargon about, you know, HD2, R2D2, or whatever the hell she was talking about, and these planets and different things. And I was like, I don't understand any of this. Clearly, you do need to have seen the previous movies to get this one.
That's the challenge with reboots. Is Orson Welles also said art has to be standalone, not purely referential. And that's interesting in the sense that the purely word, it can be referential. You have to bring something new. It has to have that transformative element. You've heard of the Matrix, but the Matrix is you link Mother Earth with the present environment. The Matrix is Neo, is the spark, the electric, the sperm that makes ferments the egg. That it's that part, the transformative aspect. It's got to have that. And they took the same spark from the older films and are seeing what it's like in contemporary society. But with regards to that stuff, I think you do have to watch them because they're about. You have to get so fond of that world that you're excited to sit in it again, and that's what they're doing. Christmas. It's Star Wars time. There's a new Star Wars release, whether it's on the 3 trilogies or the Han Solo one or the other one, and you're going back into this world that you're very fond of. So you should be fond of that world first. And I think it's very easy to, when you realize it's not this Avengers-like trajectory to an end point with Star Wars, even though it sounds like it when you talk about it. In reality, number 4 is 2 robots. You're in this weird world where you witness everything from the lens of these, from a droid who can translate, and it's like a shitty golden butler. And I say shitty, but you know, I'd love a golden butler that speaks like him. Like, scrap shitty, just take that off the record. And a little really handy moving dustbin. And then they're moving about, and you see the whole world from their perspective, and you see it's really disturbing because, like, in the background you have these machines that are as conscious as them both, being like torn up for scrap metal, like no, and within that framework of total abstraction, you're out in the void with odd phenomena and entities. Within that framework, you're then looking at seeing how abstract something like Luke Skywalker is. And he's this kind of amazing hope for a generation. People identify with him because people are loving futurism and the idea of space, but then they're also wanting the moral idea that there's something ingrained within us that's our destiny. But it's totally, from that abstraction, it's so much more. You know, like the Death Star. It's a fascinating thing for me. Like, I'm sure you'll resonate with it. So with regards to blockbusters, right? Blockbusters came out. You got Jaws, E.T. What were the earliest ones? Jaws, Star Wars, and there's one other that I'm forgetting.
Indiana Jones. Maybe?
Yeah, that was a tiny bit after. But let's stick with Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So with each of them, you've got this idea of audience need to pick up a feeling of wow from a rectangle screen, 16 by 9. That's the framework that you have to be working with. How do they do that? Well, the people on screen are going to go wow at a dinosaur. In reality, for them, they think, wow, that's an actual dinosaur. For them, they've never seen the CGI of a dinosaur. So it's the same wow. So the CGI thing is kind of like a reflexive metaphor for the film itself, because Jurassic Park is like,
I love those movies.
they move in herds.
Yeah.
You know,
I love those movies.
it's really cool. And the same with Jaws, same thing. The shark, and you don't see it the whole time, so you don't know what the movie is the whole time, because it's you think it's a horror, but it's a terror. It's I don't know what's happening. Where is it?
Yeah.
No.
That movie ruined me, man. Terrified of sharks to this day.
Yeah.
Watched it at like 2 years old. Good job, Mum.
Yeah. I don't like. I couldn't do backstroke.
Oh yeah.
In a pool, backstroke. The idea that there's something under me scared the shit out of me. In a pool. Especially if there's too much chlorine in it. I was like, no, it's gonna get me. I mean, my cousin thought he wouldn't sleep under windows because he thought hippopotamuses would jump on him from one time he saw the news and there was an escaped hippopotamus, something ridiculous, and when he was like 4, and since then he doesn't sleep under windows. The hippopotamus might get me.
That's hilarious. That's brilliant.
But where I was getting to was Star Wars, where their CGI thing, I mean, they did all prosthetics and puppets and props, but they had the Death Star. That's what their movie is. And so suddenly you have not just a movie reflexively giving a metaphor for movies, but for blockbusters and for the idea of production houses. And you have this big, it's quite an ambitious link, but this big thing in the sky that's able to take out stars and have them. They seem all powerful. The production houses suddenly, and it's interesting because all of those movies from those directors are like clear explorations of their own subconscious.
Of course, absolutely.
And to know that there's something that's like linked with your idea of your dad. So for him, probably getting a job, having financial independence and success for George Lucas, that's able to take out natural things and electrocute you with the dark side of the Force and make you feel terrible. And he's got this lightsaber, this linear idea of how I'm going to spend time over 3 years making a film. And he's got to fight off this idea of joining the world of the symbolic, of the hierarchical, of the seeing the world through a lens that's not authentic or his, that's nothing to do with the Force or hope or anything, because it can fucking die, man.
Yeah, I love that he created this, even though I don't know it really at all, because I haven't seen the films, but I love that George Lucas created this world that has been so unbelievably well received. You know what I mean? And it's ingrained in people. And I mean the Trekkies, and that's a different thing entirely, but the Star Wars people on the Trekkies, but on both for similar reasons, like those guys, they make a tiny little mistake with a movie. There'll be like 1 million people going, no, that's not how it happened, and here's why. And they'll correct the writers if they screw it up. Like, they know these worlds so well.
Yeah.
They know it as well, maybe dare I say, as George. You know what I mean? They really know their shit when it comes to this Star Wars stuff. So, if something's not... Yeah, the fans.
The fans, yeah.
The fans, I mean, they are so engrossed in these worlds that... if there's a mistake with the film, or there's, a mistake in the story or whatever, they will find it and they'll point it out and they'll, highlight it.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I actually, I got to work with Gary Kurtz, God rest him, before he died, and he's the producer of Empire Strikes Back and one of the other ones, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I think.
Right.
So he wrote them. And he was one of the producers on that as well. And so he's a lovely fella, God rest him. And I met him. We were working together on producing another series. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do here? Am I going to bullshit this guy and pretend like I've seen his work? Or am I not? And I was like, yeah, let's not do that. Because he's going to find out in a second if I'm talking through my ass or not. But he also, produced other movies that I have seen, and huge ones. Some of the ones you just mentioned, like the indie movies. He was producer on those.
Oh, very cool.
And Terminator as well, I think, actually. I think he was on Terminator. And a whole bunch of like the classic 80s, late 80s, early 90s like hits. I don't think they make movies like that anymore. They just don't make movies like that anymore.
No.
They don't make the Die Hards, those type of like The Rock and those.
That was really good, man. Our 90 minutes or so's up, but
Awesome.
I'd look forward to speaking to you again, to be honest, because I felt like pretty much halfway through, which is interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah,
I could talk for ages, but
yeah. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and
thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime at all, come back. I'll be happy to come back and sit down and have another old chin wag and yap
Nice
on
one.
about things I haven't seen.
Bless you, man.
All right,
Well,
cheers,
check
Charles.
your
All
music.
right, thanks, man. Take care, buddy.
Thank you for listening, my friend. This podcast has come to its end, but that's okay. We'll just have to do this another time in another place, someplace else.